Howdy, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday live stream with John Willis and his new T-shirt. Tell us about that T-shirt, John.
It's for Pride Month. If you order this today, we will have it to you in time for Pride Month. This is my Pride flag. Ours is a little different, but maybe we can all just intermingle and get along.
What a novel concept. And we got John Pugliano from the Wealthsteading Podcast. John, tell everybody hello.
Hey, hello, guys. Good to be here.
Awesome. I'm Nicole Sauce from Living Free in Tennessee, and I thought it'd be fun to have John on to talk about money. Is that a good topic to talk with you about, John?
I love money.
Why do you love money?
Money buys me freedom. That's really, I tell people I love money and they think, oh, that's the root of all evil. But, money's just a placekeeper for how we count our wealth. It doesn't matter if your wealth is in, Bitcoin, gold, Apple stock, in real estate, wherever it is. It's how you use those resources. And for me, I got my Pride shirt on right now, right? Here's my new T-shirt, my typical black shirt, probably I got at Costco. For me, money isn't about buying material things, right? I don't drive fancy cars. I don't necessarily live in some big McMansion, but I use my wealth to buy my freedom because over the years, I've worked for a lot of jerks and, had to do things that I didn't want to do in life. And once I got money and learned how to create my own income streams, I had the freedom to live where I wanted to work for who or where or what I wanted to. And that's why I love money.
John, what are your thoughts on money?
Oh, I want more of it. How do I get everybody to give me $1, right? Everybody that consumes my content, how do I make it of value enough that they give me $1? They want to see it enough to give $1. And how do I provide enough interest to them that they seek out and then want to do more business, right, in another manner?
Right. And that's, John brings up a really good point there, right? That's the trick is not even now focusing on your talents and abilities and how you're going to generate the income, but what do you want to do? John wants all his viewers to give him $1. Well, if all my listeners and viewers gave me $1, I'd be broke because I don't spend my time as a content creator as an income stream. I use my content as basically a marketing funnel for my investment business. So in my case, not that John's business model is wrong, it's just different, right? And that's the beauty about making money. We can do it a million different ways. He wants $1 from a million people. I want to get, $10,000 or $20,000 from hundreds of people, right? And it's what market are you going after, right? And he actually takes the exact opposite approach in his his hard business, right? And his non-content business, where he's selling very upscale premium products that you have to pay a lot of money for. And he's not trying to be a Walmart and saying, I want everybody to buy this $5, belt or something. He's saying, no, I want a small amount of people to buy this $400 belt. And again, nothing's right or wrong. It's what works for you.
So take those, combine them, and do both, right? Because if you could get $1 from a million people, and you had, say, $10,000 of that, let's not even say a million, right? If I had $10,000 coming into a separate account every month, and you took that $1,000 and invested it, imagine if a 15-year-old had invested $1,000 every week. What's he got at 30? I mean, I'm sure better than I do that number, but people are constantly like, I don't have the money to invest. I don't have the money to invest. But when you start investing, from everything I've heard you say, especially, is it compounds quickly. It's slow at first and then rapid.
Yep. And that's the magic. I don't remember if it's Mark Twain or whoever it was that talked about the miracle of compounding, but compounding interest and it doesn't matter whether you're investing in yourself or you're investing in your business or the stock market or whatever. It always starts out slow, and then it's slow and then suddenly,
and collapse.
Like the collapse. It's right. It's just the opposite. One person's collapse is another person's fortune, right? That's the way you have to look at it. And to your point, absolutely, you want to get as much diversification and build all these different income streams. I just see people focusing on too many things at one time, right? They're trying to create YouTube content, and they're trying to sell physical product, and they're trying to speak publicly, and they're trying to, do 10 or 20 different things, and they're not doing any of them extremely well. And I think it's a whole lot easier if you can do one thing really well and then branch out from there. And I don't have a face for video, I guess, so I don't spend a whole lot of time creating video content. I'm not good at creating controversies and followers and all those kind of things that I think a lot of influencers are much better at than I am. But I'm good at managing money, right? So that's where I focus on. I focus on that part of my business, and I use the other stuff again as a funnel to direct people to find me. Because in today's world, you have to have some kind of content out there, and no one's going to find you.
Right. And you could totally do it because you are very easy to listen to. Anytime I've been around you, there's always a crowd of people trying to hear what you're saying. You just don't need to do that. It's just not how you do that, right? I think a lot of people who are spread thin, they actually don't work as much as they think they do. They dabble a bit here. They're here at an hour on the computer, and then they're over here. And if you watched me through the day, that's probably exactly how I look to a stranger from the outside looking in. It's like I'm all over the place. But I had a meeting with some business people, young business people, a couple months ago, and I said, "Are you a business owner or are you an employee?" And they're like, "Oh, we're business owners." And I said, "Not at 40 hours a week, you're not. Especially not the first 5 years, you're not. You're only there when the fires are there. You're never going beyond that, right?" And I think a lot of people have this idea, but if they really turn this thing off, get these out of your ears, and really track what you're doing, I think most people would find that they're really not working as much as they think they're working.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually something I learned really well from the 4-hour work week. Not that I have created a world where I have a 4-hour work week, but one of the methods, I can't remember who the author is, that he talks about is when you organize your day, go all in 150% on whatever that thing is until it's done, and then go on to the next thing. And if you really do that, you'll find you get a lot more done during the day than if it's 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes on a bunch of things that never completely get done.
And a lot of the distractions I have through the day are simple tasks that could be done in 1 minute to 5 minutes, right? But I have the irritation every time I pass them. Whereas if I just took an hour and got rid of those 5 things, they're out of my head, right? That distraction is just simply gone. And a lot of them are really just simple, silly things.
Yeah. Like, how many times have you spent days thinking about, I have to do this one thing, and not doing it, and then realized you spent more days worrying about that thing than doing the thing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I have sunflower seeds that need planted right now that I've been saying I was going to plant for the last week.
Yeah. I feel like on a homestead, that's always true about the garden. I was supposed to put green beans in yesterday. They'll get in today, but
how long would it take? I mean, like, the no bullshit answers, it could be done in 15 minutes.
Right. Yeah, maybe 5 for me. Like, the beds are all ready. I just have to,
Yeah.
That same productivity thing on a personal level too is what we see in the economy. I don't know, a couple posts ago or so on my blog post, I put up a chart of U.S. productivity. I think it went back to, I don't know, the 80s or something. I don't remember the exact dates of it, but you can see the different phases in production in the U.S. in terms of hours of output. And actually, surprising to a lot of people, one of the largest impacts in economic productivity that we've ever had in the U.S. happened during the pandemic. And it was right after the early phases of when the pandemic hit, when companies were reopening. And if you remember, there was a time, although we think of the pandemic of all the restrictions they imposed on us, there was also a period of time there when a lot of restrictions were lifted. For example, things like health insurance and what you can do with your doctor. Prior to the pandemic, in most states, you couldn't have a doctor consultation over Zoom, because it violated some kind of law within that state, or you couldn't do it across state lines or whatever. We're during the pandemic, they dropped all that. So that's why you had stocks like Teladoc skyrocket and all these efficiency improvements. Doctors didn't have to go to the office. They could just Zoom from home. They could see patients. And you multiply that in many different factors across all these different sectors of the economy, and U.S. productivity skyrocketed for about, I don't know, 7 or 10 months or so in the early days of the pandemic. That was also a time when all the roadblockers stayed home, right? All the Karens, all the people that were the drags on your employee workforce, they were all getting paid to stay home, so they didn't come to work, right? So the only people that really went to work were probably the entrepreneurs, the people that really owned it or had some type of emotional attachment to their job. And those people actually came in and produced like crazy. And if you look at that chart, you'll see that we've lost all that increase that we got from implementing new technologies and bypassing rules and getting all these roadblockers to get out of the way. We lost all that advancement. We're back to trend of what we had been prior to the pandemic.
Well, you had the 10% do 80% of the workload, right? And you had 80% not home, and that freed that up, and the distraction and all those people in the way of the 10%, and those 10% rocked on. If you look at the production, that elevated production, I'll bet you it's with I'll bet it's 70% less people. I'll bet 30% did all of that production.
Absolutely.
Beyond the 100% threshold.
Absolutely. Right. You had a smaller amount of people doing more output, and then you didn't have all the, they waived this OSHA rule and, this safety thing. No, forget about it. We're going to just, we're going to make face masks, or we're going to make whatever we're going to make. And that just totally boosted productivity. It's kind of an interesting way. That's why I'm not as against UBI. A lot of people are worried about universal basic income. We're gonna pay all these people to sit home. That may not be such a bad thing. We might be better off paying certain people to stay home and just letting the actual producers go to work and build things, and everybody else just get out of the way.
Yeah, they'll use it for control. I mean, I'll take UBI. You want to send me $2,000 a month? No problem. You and I both know damn well there's not a person on this video that's getting any fucking UBI though.
Probably not. Yeah.
Right.
I also am not getting unemployment if I ever quote unquote lose my job. Yeah.
I've never had unemployment. I've never had any kind of compensation from anywhere ever. I've never even had a loan for business.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so here's.
I was going to say just about I'm getting old, right? All these gray hairs you can see. So, people always say, are you going to retire? I get these questions about Social Security. It's like, I'm never going to take Social Security. And it's for me, for me, every dollar I earn anyways, and earned income, I lose, depending upon what age I quote retire at, I lose anywhere from, $1 to $2 or more dollars of the benefit of the Social Security benefit for the income I have. And so it's like, well, would I rather have a max of maybe $30,000 of Social Security income, or an unlimited amount of money that I can earn? And for me, I'd rather earn it. I don't care about the $30,000. I mean, it's just another tax. I just look at it as a cost of doing business. And, for me, I would rather have 50% of $1 million than, 100% of 30,000.
Yeah.
That's you got to think about those things.
It's funny because a lot of people hear that, like walking away from $30,000 sounds really painful. Right.
Well, I just had a conversation with a kid yesterday, and his family's like, well, what are you going to do about medical insurance? Right. He has started this business. He has actually two different guys. One of them said, I just made more money in the first part of this year than I've ever made altogether ever. And his dad said, but what are you going to do about medical insurance? He's like, really? That's the question? Dad, I just showed you the screenshot of how much money we did this month.
Yeah. It's funny how paying for insurance, if you're going to buy it, becomes easier when you have a higher income.
There's a lot of church-based groups and business-based groups for medical that you just kind of pool into, and then that pool is there when you need it, and it negates medical insurance or the dictate that says you have to have it.
Yeah. I'm a health share lady. Okay, so I wanted to bring this up. I was told at 18 years old that if you put $5 a week by for retirement, you would have over $1 million. And then the next thing was, I wish I'd done that. I was told when I was 18 10% in savings, same thing. And
Yeah.
I wish I'd done that. What is it about we humans, John, that don't listen to the very important advice of $5 a week or 10% of your income locked into savings?
I think a lot of it is it's just a matter of discipline. We all see the little kid that you tell them if you wait 10 minutes, I'll give you 2 candy bars, but if you can't wait, I'll give you half a candy bar now. And they'd rather have half a candy bar now than waiting 5 minutes to get 2 candy bars later. And we experience that as real adults. We get caught up in looking around and seeing what everybody else is doing, right? It's the herd mentality. And so you see the guy cross the street and he's driving this really cool pickup truck, or he has this awesome fishing boat, or he just got back from some fantastic vacation, whatever it is. And you look at him and you say, well, I want that. I want that. And so you don't think towards the future of how can I get that? You think about how can I get it now? And maybe the guy across the street's been working for 30 years to get there, or maybe he just put it all on his credit card and he's dirt broke and doesn't have anything. And you got to really look at your realistic situation and try and best as you can take out those elements of fear and greed and envy, and look at it from a real nuts and bolts spreadsheet, Excel standpoint. If I save this amount of money and I can get this kind of interest rate on it over this period of time, this is what I'm going to make. And most people don't ever wake up to that until they get older, and then they're like, well heck, $5 isn't going to work, $10 isn't going to work. And they start looking at the numbers and they panic and they're like, well, I need a lot of money, right? So, and that's where the get rich quick schemes come in. You say, well, I only have $50,000 and that's never going to get me to $1 million if I just get a 6% interest rate or something, or an 8% interest rate. So then they want to jump into get rich quick schemes and they want to try and quadruple it, or just take it to the moon. And that works for some people, but the vast majority of people lose all or most of their money.
Yeah, I find it interesting. I was talking to my dad just about what my retirement looks like, and he said at my age he had less set aside for retirement than I do right now, and I feel like I'm behind. Like my first conversation with you, John, just from an advisory standpoint, was all about what? How to save money.
Save money, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Like I'm going to imagine there's a certain number of people on right now who maybe they've started saving that pay yourself first thing 10%. Maybe every month they get to goose egg in their account. And when we have these conversations about making more money and building wealth, they're like, yeah, but so what do you say to somebody who's maybe got a little bit of credit card debt? Maybe they have a lot of credit card debt, a whole bunch of money on their house, and they're getting down to goose egg every month. Like, how do you go from that to saving money to having enough to invest to building something that's paying you over time that you're not necessarily working on all the time hourly?
Yeah, and it's all about, we talk about saving, and Nicole, when we've talked recently too, you kind of spun that around. So it's really about not spending, right? And that's really what it all comes down to. You can't earn it and save until you stop spending. And when I don't do a lot of financial counseling because that's not my thing, right? I'm about investing. But for clients and friends that want to talk about that, I do help them with that process. But it really comes down to it's not a money matter at that point, right? It's a psychological factor. You have to decide to stop spending. And so many people work themselves into a hole where they've got their mortgage, they've got maybe a second mortgage, they have credit card debt, they've got something buy now, pay later over at a firm. I mean, they just have all these commitments that are either existing debt or, they can't get rid of their cell phone. So that's whatever, 30, 50, $100 a month. Well, they can't stop watching Netflix. So that's another, 10, 20, 30,
or whatever. Yeah.
All these subscription things people have. And, Dave Ramsey talks about that debt snowball thing. There's the spending snowball as well. People literally have to look themselves in the mirror and say, I'm going to stop spending. And, for me, again, that's why I use that joke. I love money, right? I say that all the time. That's just the easiest way to tell people I love money. I don't want to buy something and give up my money. I'd rather have that money in my hand. Again, for like we talked about, it buys me freedom. But from a psychological level, I think of it that way. I'd rather have that money in my wallet or in my bank account rather than spending it on something else, because once I spend it, it's gone. That's a piece of me that I had to work for that I never get back. And it's a real psychological factor. People have to look at their lives and say, do I need the latest iPhone or Android or whatever it is? Do I need to have this kind of a car? Do I need to live in this kind of a house or this kind of a neighborhood? And they're not easy choices. And generally, once you make some of the bigger ones, you can't get out of them quickly. So it gets back to that kid. If you start doing it when you're young, then you don't have to worry about it when you're old. But, those are the choices my wife and I made when we were raising our family. We had 6 kids, and people all the time would say, "Oh, gee, you're so lucky. I wish my wife could stay home and didn't have to work, or I wish we could have a large family." And it's like, luck had nothing to do with it. We planned it. We knew when my wife and I first got married, we both had jobs, and we said, well, one of us is going to have to stay home because we want to have kids. We want to have a stay-at-home spouse. Didn't matter which one of us was, but I was better at making money, and she was better at taking care of kids, so she stayed home. But we made those choices when we were in our 20s. So, by the time we got to our 40s, we didn't have to say, well, gee, we have these 2 incomes we're relying on. How are we gonna have someone stay home? Well, we had made that decision 2 decades earlier. And that's really what you got to do. You got to buckle down and have the discipline to look at what you own and what you want to own and decide what's really important. And sometimes you got to shed stuff that you love. Maybe you can't live in as nice of a house, or maybe you got to live farther out from work, or whatever it is to get those monthly costs down. Because if you don't save the money, if you don't stop spending, there's no secret. There's no app. It's not like there's no diet that it's gonna help you lose weight. You got to have a lifestyle change, and it's the same way with money.
You need to stand in the mirror when you're looking at yourself to have that conversation. You need to slap the shit out of yourself, first of all, and think about how many people, when you move, who's ever had to move and pack all your stuff up. How much stuff did you throw away that didn't matter anymore, right? Half that shit you're still paying on, right? Everybody's talking about right now how big screen TVs are down and Walmart's reduced their electronics aisle to 2 aisles. That's because everybody fucking has 5 of them.
Yeah. You don't need one.
I have televisions in rooms that I've never sat in. I've literally never turned them on. And we pay for that bullshit. And all that stuff you named off, John, Netflix and this thing, that's amusement, right? At the rawest form, amusement means no thought. It's because we sit in front of that and we get programmed by that. That is time that you could use to make money or change your physical appearance or do anything that's going to better your life. There's nothing on that television that is making you better. No matter what you think, History Channel, Discovery, it is not what it used to be. You are being programmed and manipulated.
And TV is a good example. If you walked into my house, you walked into my living room, you would think I was probably poor, right? You would see that my TV is something I bought on sale at Walmart in 2010, right? This is 2023. I haven't bought a TV since 2010. And to tell you the truth, I don't even know how to work it. I mean, my kids will come over and want to do something. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know where the remote is. I don't look at it. I don't care. I have it for a few times. I'm going to look at something on a television. It's there. My wife might want to watch it, but I could care less, right? I don't spend my time or my money on television. So I don't have a big screen TV. I don't know how to, stream video to it and save it or do this. I have no clue. I just don't waste my time doing that. I have a joke. I say, on a Friday or Saturday night, I like to stay home and count my money. Right? That's my favorite activity. Stay home and count my money.
Duck McScrooge.
Yeah, I'm totally Duck McScrooge. Right. That's my idol. And again, it's a joke. I really don't stay home and count my money, but I'm just happy with smaller amounts of things, right? And that's how I got to where I'm at. I don't have the kind of money I have because, because I'm Warren Buffett and made billions of dollars. I simply was just like everybody else. I joined the Marine Corps at 17 years old, right? I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't go to Yale. I didn't get a big inheritance, any of that kind of stuff. I was just a dumb teenager like most people probably were in the audience. And I learned, though, I had the discipline to save my money and to learn how to make more of it. And it's literally that simple. I mean, it is easy. It's not accomplished by most people. 5% of people ever become financially independent. Okay, it depends how you want to measure that. But basically, if you can retire and don't need Social Security, I guess that's one way to look at what financial independence is. But 90% of people never achieve that. They work all their lives, 30, 40 years, and they retire, and they got to just scrimp and get by on what the government sends them. And to me, that's no life, right? I would rather sacrifice during those 30 and 40 years to not have to just live on a Social Security check when I'm 65.
I want to make so much money that we have to weigh it. It's too much to count.
And he will, now that he said it out loud.
People don't,
And John, you have to save it, not just make it.
No, I want to make more every month than the month before, and more and more and more.
I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do. But I can promise you, if you save more of your money, you'll care less about how much you make, because the money will be making it for it.
I want to make so much money that I have a guy, and I just have part of the money go into account, and that guy turns that money into so much money that I don't even know how much money I have.
I know a guy. No comment. Okay, let's talk about the debt ceiling. What's up with this debt ceiling crap? John. Either John.
I'll let the other John go first. I think it's all right. It's all programming and bullshit and minutia. John, what say you?
No, it's all bullshit. It's the World Wrestling Federation, right? More importantly than the debt ceiling, did you hear that the IRS just went through court and they don't have to have warrants when they're running a case on one person? They do not have to have warrants to pierce and go into friends and family members' accounts, right? And that was just taken into high court, and they ruled on the side of the IRS. I saw that this morning. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I had not.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the enforcement things. And again, this is sort of why I'm not overly concerned about the central bank digital currency. All kinds of people have these scary concerns about CBDCs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I see that, and I know we're going to see that happen in China as they lock down with their capital controls. But at the same time, I just look at all the rules that are currently on the books, and if the IRS or the SEC or anybody wants to come after me, they don't need a digital currency, right? I mean, they can just lock me down today, and I have no recourse. There's nothing I can do about it, and neither does anybody else. So, yeah, I'm very concerned about the police state that we live in, but the other side of it, I don't worry about it much because there's nothing I can do about it. So I focus on being the gray man, staying in the law, staying within the lanes, staying in the lanes that they restrict me in, and enjoying that as much as I can. This whole debt ceiling nonsense, though, I don't know how much I see people on social media, arguing and complaining about it in terms of just, the government overspending and how are we ever going to pay off the debt. So I see that aspect of it. And then I see the stock market too, where you have, for weeks now, it's been the topic of every financial thing I've watched or read, just talks about, the debt ceiling, if they're pushing it to the limit, and everybody knows that the government's not going to default on their debt, right? But they talk about it, they pump it up, they build all kinds of drama into it. And at the end of the day, I mean, the federal government's going to pay their bills because they print the money, right? There's no money, there's no gold in Fort Knox to back it up. They're just simply going to print the money, and everybody's going to accept it. So it's a bunch of drama. The debt's never going to be paid off. It'll either be written off, or most likely most of it inflated away. That's their plan. And that's personally why I don't deal much in treasuries or bonds really of any sort, even like corporate bonds and things like that. I move in and out of them when I have to. Right now, I've got about 90% of my money in money market funds that are U.S. government backed. So, to that extent, yes, I'm in government treasuries, but I'm only there temporarily until I switch and invest in something else. People that buy bonds for the long term, I think it's a sucker's game, because whether it's Apple issuing the debt or the federal government issuing the debt, the only reason it's issued is because they never intend to pay it back, or they intend to pay it back with diluted dollars. And so, just by definition, you're never going to stay up with inflation if you solely, are relying on an interest that you're going to get from some kind of a government debt. Apple, I think it may have been about a month ago, Apple went out and floated, I don't remember what the number was, $5 billion or something they bought in debt. They issued debt, $5 billion. Well, Apple has $5 billion of cash, either just from direct cash flow or money they have sitting around somewhere. They don't need to borrow the money. Why are they borrowing it? Because they're going to pay it back over the next 5 to 10 years with money that's worth less. And that's the game, right? That's how they play the game. And so I want to own appreciating assets, and whether it's the federal government's debt or Apple's debt or China's debt, it doesn't matter. It's all funny money.
Until you start seeing welfare recipients not being paid, you probably don't have much to worry about. When you start seeing that government, money paid out to people that don't work, as long as they're getting paid, none of it doesn't matter.
Right. And again, in the situation we're in the near future, I don't know what's going to happen 10, 20 years from now, but just in our day-to-day debt issues that we always hear talked about, where the government's not going to send out checks, or old people aren't going to get their Social Security. The government's smart enough that they manipulate that. If you remember, I don't remember if it was all the way back in 2011 or last time one of these fights came up, when they were closing down non-essential businesses. They closed down the national parks. They closed down veterans couldn't visit the monuments at Washington, D.C.
All manipulation.
All manipulation. They did it. They did it to get the effect that they wanted to. And a congressman or a senator isn't going to have constituents storming their house. So they're gonna make sure those people get their money.
And the congressmen's still getting their money. Their jets still get them. They get them there, no problem. All of our rest stops, our federal rest stops up and down the interstates, those are still closed. Still closed. You know where you go? To a gas station, Pilot, or whatever. Right.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But that whole thing about, like I mentioned earlier, though, even with UBI, I almost think it would be better that they pay people to stay home, right? Because they print the money. You get 70% of the people that aren't going to do anything anyways. Just let them stay home. Let them do sports betting online, and argue on Facebook or all the things that they just let them do that. Let them get out of the way, and let the producers actually go to work. The problem is that we don't let the producers produce. If we let the producers produce, there's more than enough money that we could fund the people that don't want to produce, because the dirty secret that nobody talks about is the population's declining. And if you keep enough people at home on bread and circuses, and you control what they eat and their health care, then they don't breed, right? They don't reproduce. They don't have kids. And in 30 or 60 or whatever years, that problem goes away. And right, you can get into all kinds of conspiracy theories with that, but look at the birth rates, look at who isn't having kids, look what's promoted, and they want people to stay home and be unhealthy and not work.
Well, it is bread and circuses, and it is by design. I don't think there's any conspiracy theory to it. Look what happened to China with their one-child initiative, right? They're averaging 7 children right now for a Chinese family, is what I had heard the other day now, that's what's actually happening. but it is by design. And it gets the useless eaters out of the way, right? The mouth breathers and shit. There's less dead standing wood in the forest. The issue, I think, and maybe it's manipulation also, is those are the people that are out there rioting and picketing and causing, like, we give the biggest amplification to the smallest percentage of literally insane people, right? That other side, whereas our side typically, right, at least anybody that I call friends and anybody I interact with on a regular basis, we are not out there being politically active as much on the forefront and why is that? It's because we work, right? We have businesses. We raise our children. We want to see a future for our grandkids, and we are busy doing us. And really, without this thing, most of us wouldn't even know the silly shit that's going on there. You wouldn't, because I don't know any Kool-Aid hairs, right? I don't know anybody with the crazy Kool-Aid hair. And as far as the crazy shit being put out, while I'm on the topic of crazy shit, right? The Target thing, right? With the clothing and the transgender shit and the Budweiser stuff, that all kind of just disintegrated. It's not really a thing right now. And now you have both sides mad at them. They moved all that bullshit to the back. But people say, why is this happening? All these iconic companies, Ford and Target and Walmart and these U.S. founded based, family based started businesses, because they're not U.S. companies anymore. The new term you hear, if you pay attention, is global company, right? Those are global companies. The company that owns Budweiser and all those other beers is actually in Brazil. It's a Brazilian company that owns that whole umbrella of companies over there. And they want to destroy the United States, right? Do any of us care? Nobody on here drinks Budweiser. Shit, I don't know that I've ever even drank an entire beer in my life. But it is happening. It's easy to talk about, right? Here I am talking about it. It is easy to focus on. And when we're focusing on the crazy, insane people, what are we not doing? We are not focused on our tasks and bettering ourselves and family.
Well, we're falling for the trick. And I think about, I was thinking about this on my walk this morning, the Overton window, which in politics, if you look at a right-left spectrum, the Overton window is this opening about what is possible to pass. And if you want to move it or make it bigger, you talk about very extreme ideas that would never pass on the right or on the left. And then it either shifts or it just gets bigger. Well, if you look at what is being talked about on the left, it is crazy town, right? It's a completely alternate reality. But then look at what's passing. It's shifting to the left. And that was the thing I was starting to think about, because on the right, that same crazy talk's not happening anymore.
Yep.
And it used to be that a lot of freedom-based narrative was out there to move the Overton window towards the right.
And I don't look at it as left and right. I was more, I guess, right or conservative years ago, many years ago. I've kind of realized that, it's really two different sides of the same coin in a lot of ways, because it's all about restriction, right? Someone doesn't want you to have an abortion. Someone doesn't want you to own a handgun. Someone doesn't want you to do this or that. It's never about you're free to do what you want. Neither side wants you to be free to do. It's always about what they take from you.
Yeah.
And I think it's all the dialectic, right? It's creating the distractions and the illusion of freedom. I think much of what we've seen in recent decades with the sexual revolution and all those kind of things is that it's totally a facade or just a karaoke kind of show, because none of it matters, right? The freedoms that they're supposedly preserving, most people really aren't trying to restrict, for one thing. And even if someone does or wants to restrict them, you can't, right? So like if someone's transgender, like I can't stop them from dressing up whether I wanted them to or not, like dressing differently from their quote societal role that people want them to dress. And I have no power to do that. I mean, you can go to your house and dress however you want. You can have sex with whoever you want. You can do all these things however you want it. The government really can't really regulate that, right? We can't keep drugs out of prison. So therefore we can't keep all these activities that they say everybody's trying to stop you from doing. You can't, right? they're freedoms that people have anyways. The government can't stop you. But what the government is stopping us from, like John mentioned about the IRS, right? You got the IRS, you've got all these capital controls, you've got all these restrictions on businesses, whether it's, OSHA or, the whole myriad of alphabets that come down on businesses and restrict what you can and can't do. No one cares about that, right? No one's marching or protesting about all those freedoms that are taken away. But, if you want to prevent either, it's all about drag queen shows. Well, I could care less about drag queen shows one way or the other, because it's a non-issue. It's a total bread and circus dialectic. But they can distract better than 50% of the people with that stuff, and then nothing gets done on the real freedoms that are lost.
It's the big ask, right? We're going to ban all firearms, and then they ratchet it back, and everybody's fine. Well, I don't have a bump stop, and they chip it away, right? They cut that end off, and then it moves, and it just keeps it's the Hegelian dialectic, right? They create a problem, amplify the problem, and then become the solution. And the solution for all of it is to take something from you. Imagine if there was nobody imagine if the laws were just literally 10 commandments, right? Or the fact that I can't say anything about what John does if it doesn't negatively affect me or somebody else in a negative manner. If it doesn't physically affect you, nothing can be done about it. But they have to, because there's two kinds of people in this world. You have people that create things, and you have people that have jobs and get paid because they steal from people that create things, right? On Saturday night, if I have a toothache, I am more than happy to seek out a dentist and pay him whatever he wants to come in Sunday to fix my problem. But on the other hand, you have, for instance, people at the Department of Motor Vehicles. Would you ever go to the DMV and pay them and have them inspect your car and make you go someplace else to pay more money to get the bullshit done so that you can go back to the DMV and stand in front of somebody that acts like they fucking hate you so that you can pay them money? You wouldn't, except when you got a ticket for no registration, eventually they would send you to court. And if you didn't surrender, show up, or pay the fine, right, they would send guys with guns. It's always at the threat of violence. And if people pushed back, it is said that if 1% of the people that were issued traffic citations, if 1% of the people in a week showed up to dispute that ticket, it would crash the entire system. 1%. We can't get 1% to push back, right? So if you're not going to be the dude that pushes back, be the guy that's quiet and doesn't get noticed, and go on and do your thing.
Yeah, and these regulations, right? They never matter. It's all, I guess, like stop. It's all about taking things away from it. When I was on here last time was about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. Bank failures were the big thing. Everybody's worried about bank failures. All the things that really made the banks fail were the regulation that they put in place 18 years ago, 15 years ago, and then now it's, well, those regulations didn't work, so we need more regulations. And it's just not affect the regular person. It's just adding layer upon layer. And again, yeah, you either need to figure out how to resist it, to bring the whole system down, or to simply nullify it, right? Just ignore it. Go on about your life.
Yeah.
And don't worry about it.
You have millions of laws and regulations and taxes that we are still enforced today that have nothing to do. There's still laws on horse and buggy tax. There's still laws on horse and buggy usage on roads. Certain states still pay cobblestone tax, right? There's not a fucking cobblestone road anywhere. It really opened my eyes when Jack had the guy from Texas, walking from Texas Succession, and he was talking about the active taxes. 65% of the taxes you pay today are old and negated and have nothing to do with anything that even exists today in Texas. We should actually have that guy on too, Nicole. That was pretty great. Fascinating to hear that guy talk. And it really, you stop and think about that shit. When they pass a new law, they don't ever remove an old law. But if you try to enforce that, I mean, if you try to hang a horse thief, they're going to enforce against you, right? You're always the bad guy. It only works in their favor.
Yeah, and the money's all fungible too. I mean, the money that they raise through the gas tax, it doesn't go into some pristine fund that's only going to be used to build bridges, right? It's used for everything. So, and it's, again, Social Security is never going to go bankrupt because there's no Social Security trust fund to begin with. You simply print the money. There's no money there. There is no money.
And as money tightens up for people, here's another little theory I have. Amanda goes to the grocery store on last Tuesday. There's 6 or 7 state troopers writing tickets. Every one of them has massively people pulled over. And then today, Tuesday, state troopers out, right? Why is that? Because when the state troopers write tickets in your municipality, part of that money generated from those tickets goes to that county right there. So people here are tight on money. They're not shopping on the left side of Walmart. They're only shopping on the right side, which is the food side. Money's not being paid out that doesn't have to be spent, or there's less of it for them to spend. So that sales tax, which also partially stays in that county, is not being made. So they're bringing in enforcement to harass the working man. Who's out driving during business hours? Typically employed people who can pay that fine. And it's happening. We're seeing it happen here for about the last month. There is law enforcement just everywhere writing tickets. And you usually don't see that like that. They will get their money, and they will come after you when you make your money, expecting to steal part of it.
Yeah, that's how society works. They steal your money.
I like what Evan said there. I'm late because I'm trying to build things, not steal things. That's a fucking great. That should be on a shirt, Evan.
Yeah. So Evan, you just got into the t-shirt business.
Evan's he's actually a little bit in the t-shirt business already.
Yeah, laws are nothing but a promise of government-implemented kidnapping and violence. It's not a problem until a scared cop shoots you for loitering in your own driveway.
Yeah, if you really want to delve into that, look at privatized prisons. Just look it up and start watching some. I was in federal prison myself, right, in Lompoc. The one where they send all the bad guys always under armed guards and shit. We had a factory there, and they made street signs and lockers. Others make pencils, all kinds of stuff. And you have this thing called GSA schedule. Any federal agency has to buy from GSA schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think because it's made by slave labor in the prison systems that it's a better price. It's actually not. They actually pay at GSA level more than you could buy the equivalent thing from, say, Walmart or Office Depot or Home, or, any of those companies. They actually pay those guys 40 cents a day. And then they pay, when it transfers, they actually pay more money to the prison for the manufacturer, to the company within the prison. And it's a insane thing. There are privatized prisons all over the place. If you have big money, guys are putting massive money into privatized prison systems.
And some of that's investable even as public companies in the stock market. I mean, you can do your research. You can some of that. And again, I'm that cynical guy that says, I'm going to make money off that stuff, right? Because I can't change it. I look for ways that I can make myself money so that I can buy myself that freedom, and try and live someplace where it's safer. Try and live someplace where you're less likely to get shot by a cop, and you live your life so that you're less likely to get an IRS audit. Is it succumbing to the police state? Yeah, maybe, but it is what it is, right? I've told people before, there's no underground railroad that I see that's going to get us off this plantation, right? I mean, we're stuck, right? You got to make the most of it and build the best life you can. And from what I've seen over many years of my life is building your own business. Building your own business gets you that freedom.
Multiple businesses, compartmentalize them. Businesses do business with businesses.
Yep. It starts with the first one, though.
Yep. Arcady Orchard, man, high impact flicks. And here's the deal. I'm sure you already watch him. I'd love to have that guy on too, Nicole. That guy's been kind of making our circle rounds. It's wild. But yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I tell people, like, John's not doing the YouTube thing, right? Guys start and they're like, I don't know what business to start, especially homesteaders, right? I'm in contact with a lot of people that are homesteading. I'm like, you build content, monetize your content, and whatever it is you're doing. You could be a garlic grower, for instance, right? And you start building content, and people that want to know about garlic are going to watch that content. And eventually you get good at building content, and you have now stopped growing garlic, and you're telling people how to build content and make revenue streams, multiple revenue streams from the content, click through links and whatever. And I had a kid in here yesterday, and he's like, yeah, my side hustle. I'm like, how are you making money from your side hustle? He's like, well, I'm not now yet. And I'm like, why? Why are you not making money from your content, right? Did you ask anybody for $1? You'd be amazed. Are you building content? And he's doing all the things, but there's no money coming into it. And it's literally just inaction.
Yeah, it's interesting how easy it is to not take action.
I do it all day long.
Yeah.
In terms of making that product too, I mean, just a physical thing, whether it's garlic or whatever it is, if you make a good quality product, you'll find an audience for it. You'll find a customer base. People want it is so difficult, whether you're looking at products or services, to find something that's good quality, but people are willing to pay for it. I all the time look for something better, right? Because as much as I love my money, right, if I'm going to spend something, I want to buy something that's good. I don't want to buy something that I got to throw away in a week. And you literally, whether it's an automobile, a house, no matter what you're trying to buy, things are so shoddily made, cheap quality. People promise things and don't deliver. If you simply just, do what you say and say what you do, you'll have a business, right? You will have people wanting to buy things from you. Nicole, you sell a lot of coffee, because you sell good quality coffee.
I've got my numbers up. In May, I had 30% more sales over May last year. And I roasted a bunch of coffee before this live stream because I was at that class this weekend. And I just realized that like by concentrating my time, sort of go all in 150% all at once, I'm actually roasting fewer hours now and producing 30% more. So
by turning this fucking thing on.
Yeah, so my first walk in the morning, this is with me in case there's an emergency, but it's certainly not on. I'm not listening to anything. It's just like, what are the things? And I just let my mind go. And that's made a huge difference.
And that's the other big hot topic of the day is things like robots and automation, right? Everybody's all big on AI right now, Chat GPT and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Most people that I know are wasting time with that stuff, right? They're wasting time with Chat GPT instead of using it to make themselves more productive. And again, one of the reasons I'm so cynically optimistic about the future is that the technology's there, right? That I don't use my cell phone to waste time. I use my cell phone to make money, right? My all these things in technology, I use them to enhance my business. How can I use the internet? How can I use all these, whether it's robotics or automation? How can I make that capital investment to buy something that's going to save me time or enable me not to hire an employee? Right? I would rather spend the money to buy a thing than an employee, because the employee eats, the employee shows up late, the employee takes vacation or sick leave. The app or the system or the robot or whatever that artificial intelligence is, it doesn't, right? It's my slave. It does whatever I want it to. And small businesses like never before have been able to buy technology and enhance their productivity if they just look for the opportunities. And people don't take advantage of it. They complain and bitch, but the opportunities are there to make yourself so much more productive. I could never do what I do. Like what I do today in my business, I couldn't do 20 years ago. It couldn't be done. Could not be done. But it can be now if you use the right technology. And it's that way in everybody's business. I mean, think of what you can do with CNC routers or 3D printers or lathe machines that work on a CNC principle, or just all these different, whether it's additive manufacturing or subtractive manufacturing or sewing. I mean, John, what you do, the sewing machine's probably, I don't know, 300-year invention. I don't know how long it's been around, but just the automation, the way you can improve that so that you or an individual doesn't have to spend all the time at that needle. I mean, that's what frees you up to make new designs, to create more products, to sell more stuff, to make more money.
For sure. I still sew every day. We could bring in a laser cutter for about $65,000, $120 for like something much better. And literally it would do the work of 10 people, and it would do it precisely every time. There'd be no overages. It would nest, the whole deal. There is still something. I do a podcast, my partner Scully, and he said, there will always be, no matter what the economy is, there will always be people that want handcrafted goods, right? Look at the massive market right now, though not what it was. the massive market for records, right? There's this huge underground market for records, handcrafted guitars, right? There's guys paying $50,000, $100,000 for a guitar, and there's guys that make 10 of them a year. Same with like surfboard shapers, right? So you should definitely use AI and automation to your advantage. At the same time, Saturday, I sell a bag right now. It's a bag with 4 pockets on the front of it and one massive compartment that's all Velcroed. I sell that bag for $400. I made 9 of them this weekend. They were all pre-orders. So $3,600 on this weekend. And I just kind of turn the video on. People are like, hey, what are you building? We have a conversation, kind of passes the time, or I listen to music or podcasts or whatever. I could do that every weekend with some product, right? And there's people that want to see that. And at the same time, you have people like, oh man, that's ridiculous. I can get a bag just like that at Walmart for $35. You can.
Show me.
You can. You also wear white tube socks with white shoes. You know, that's not me. But there's an ass for every seat. And,
right.
and the most important, and I could never do that without an audience, right? The most important, valuable thing right now in 23 is an audience.
And, and when I tell people about using automation and things, and this was a topic of a book I wrote several years ago, I see using the robotics and artificial intelligence and all these things to enhance your humanity, not to distract from your humanity, right? Because, in terms of automated sewing machines, Levi's is going to crank out all kinds of jeans at a price that you'll never compete with them, right? That's the barrier to entry. But if you use the automation to make whatever is unique to John Willis in your own mind, right, that Levi's is never going to do and can't do because they want to make a gazillion of them. You want to make a smaller amount, but you still use that automation to step you up to make, to give you that freedom. The same way with me, right? You can go out and hire a robo advisor to pick what stocks you invest in or time you get in and out of the S&P 500. I don't try and compete with that. That's not my market. But I'm not going to turn my back on automation and say, well, shoot, I shouldn't use as many of those tools as I can, for what I do. And the same way, I love handcrafted products, but man, it's so much easier to get those handcrafted products when people are using technology, to enhance that manufacturing process.
Especially precision. I've heard you say, I think every conversation we've ever had face-to-face, you've talked about scaling and you're like, I just don't want employees. And I understand the employee frustration. I've started to look at it, I guess I always kind of have also, in a different manner, right? I look at it as the doomsday prepper side of it, right? If the power went out tomorrow, or like at the beginning of COVID, right? We started hearing about shutdowns and whatever they were calling it, essential business, right?
Yeah.
So we spun up and started building masks. We built 3,000 masks. We knew how to do it. We knew what we were going to do if somebody came in here. We had plans in place. We'd had conversations with the sheriff if other entities had showed up. But I looked at it as if they shut off interstate commerce same if the power went out or something happened, right? Half my employees would still show up to work because we are kind of aligned in the same thoughts, right? We have wood processing here. We have egg production. We have all kinds of stuff that if something collapsed, we would still have revenue and trade with other people. And a lot of those people would show up, right? Community or tribe, whatever term you want to use. I've got 15 people here. I have no doubt that if the world collapsed, 7, if not 10 of them would still be here. Okay, what are we doing today? How are we doing it, right? Yeah. And those people are proven, and I have a 10-year history with a lot of those people. So while I understand, with those 10 people that are here today, there's 400 that we've been through at the same time that are not here, But that's kind of who am I? Guys are like, I want to come and hang out and see, I want to come hang out. I don't ever hang out. Like, there is nothing I do that is hang out. Like, if you come here, you better have some running shoes on, and they better be new, because you're not going to have any tread on them at the end of the day. So if you want to have any interaction with me, you come work here. Like, those are the people that I spend the most time with always.
Yeah, if you're going to talk to John, you're going to be talking to John while walking somewhere quickly. And if you can't keep up, you will not be talking to John.
Yeah, it kind of weeds them out.
Yeah. That's also true at Self-Reliance Festival.
Absolutely.
I
I recorded 24 hours of podcasts, plus did everything else that we did.
Yeah. Yeah, you walk with them and talk. Can you talk about how to grow an audience from Tony?
Do interesting shit, right? If you want people to be interested, do interesting stuff. If you're not interested, take what you do really well and show that, and the right people will show up for that. You will get better at building that audience. You will be more personable, or you won't, right? My friend Evan, he's funny as can be. If you looked at him the first time and listened to him, he's kind of dry, but he's super like ridiculously smart, and he will say something funny or underhanded or talk shit to you, and you won't even realize that it's happened. There's an ass for every seat. Just take what you're doing, and you don't even have to be good at it. Just turn it on, start recording, be yourself, put it up. You don't even have to publish it. You could just send it to 1 or 2 people and get input. You could build a year's worth of content, and that's just practice, right? And then once you actually have an audience, you could go back and take that old stuff and start releasing it, and they will be interested in what you did that you thought was not worthy of doing.
Yeah, I would add to that interact with other people and develop community, and interact with sincerity, not with the goal to build your audience, but to help all of our audiences improve and increase. That's something that's, I think, oft overlooked. People come into a community and are trying to take from that community rather than give to the community. But if you come in and you're a content creator and you also give to the community, everybody wins, and it builds over time. It's like you're making the pie bigger as opposed to taking a piece of pie.
I spent a long time people would ask me about my industry, and I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to give you that. Like, that product exists because I was finally big enough to buy enough of it. I'm not going to tell you where that comes from. I make a video every week showing people how to build the actual products that we build. And I have an enormous industry or an enormous audience viewing that thing. And there are a few kids out there. I call them kids. I mean, they could be older than me for all I know. There's some people out there building the stuff. They're like, hey, I built that thing. Most people watch it and they're like, man, this is fascinating. I totally don't want to do this. Or there's guys that are like, yep, I went and bought a $2,000 sewing machine, and I'll just be more than happy to give you whatever you want for this product. It actually has grown a new customer base out of showing people how to do exactly what it is I do.
It's funny how that works.
It is. And I should have done it a long time ago.
Yeah. I think it's counterintuitive to how we're taught to interact in business.
Yeah, especially too right now. Like, my materials have doubled in price over the last 3 years, probably. I used to have a semi truck come in here and write a check for $250. It's almost $850 every time a truck pulls in here. That's just for shipping. The materials are up between 50 and 100%. So if I had more guys in this industry, the warehousing would be bigger. I mean, this is the first time, this year is the first time in probably 20 years where I've placed a reoccurring order and they're like, hey, we don't have your stuff. 6 months. Like, it's things are changing.
Yeah. Thanks for the super chat, Tony, whoever you sent that to. John, how do you build your audience? John Pugliano. Sorry, there's 2 Johns on. I have to be more specific.
Yeah. I've been doing the audio podcast now for almost 10 years. And I never did it to actually have an audience where I monetize it, right? That was never my intent. In fact, the original few episodes or early on I did, it was really just out of frustration. And I was kind of saying the same thing over and over again. I figured if I just recorded it, then I could just show it to people and they could just wouldn't have to keep saying the same thing over and over again. But, my podcast is I'd say it's still fairly successful in terms of what it is, because I can get 10,000 downloads on a good episode, which is more people than I'm ever going to get in front of in one time, right? I mean, so just to be able to reach that kind of an audience. And in my case, though, John, it's like you get on there and you sew and you make something and show people how you do it. I simply tell people what I do, right? This is what I'm doing with my money. This is what I think of the economy. This is what I think about the debt ceiling. This is what I think about bank failures, whatever the topic is. And this is what I'm doing with my money. And I don't hide it behind a paywall, or I don't charge extra for consultations or anything on that. I just simply tell people what I do with my money. And if you want to take my advice and do it, or take my advice and do the opposite, I don't care, right? I'm just giving you that information. But there are a percentage of people that like what I say. They don't want to do it themselves, and they'd rather pay me to do it for them. And that's, again, that's why I keep doing the podcast. So it helps me get free information out there, but at the same time, it's a sales funnel for my business, because people listen to what I've said for 10 years. They say, the guy knows what he's talking about. I'm just going to have him manage my money for me. And
do you rip your audio and load it up to YouTube as well?
I don't. I have a separate YouTube channel that I'll use for more visual type things. But yeah, I don't duplicate them. I could, I just don't.
Okay. How much Bitcoin do you have?
None.
I'm fucking with you.
There's all my precious metals too. and I'd sell that, but I can't get it off. I gain weight, or I can't get it off. Gold's up right now. I'd be selling that.
But silver's down.
I'm not opposed to buying Bitcoin though. I like the charts I showed when I was out at Nicole's last time. There's a time and season for all things. I mean, Bitcoin goes up and down. Chinese stocks were the rage earlier this year. Now, not so much. But boy, for some reason, Warren Buffett bought into Japan. So now, a month ago, everybody was buying into Japanese stocks, and that's sort of taper off now. There's a time and season for all things. So someday I will buy Bitcoin.
Same time he sold all his Taiwan stocks.
Wonder why.
He said some weird shit when people asked him. He's like, it's just there's a lot of seismic activity and we can't tell, like alluding to there's going to be an earthquake or a tsunami or something.
So John, I want to know what John's going to do to save money, because John makes great money. John can make tons of money. John, how are you going to save it?
I don't know. We'll discuss that. I know that you can't give legal advice right here, or finance. Isn't that what you got? This is not financial advice.
Not financial advice, but I'm just talking about saving money, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what you put. You could buy Bitcoin with it. You could buy gold with it. You could buy stocks. What are you going to do to save money? Because that's right. That's the emphasis of everything. It's stop spending. How, what can you do to stop spending to have more money so that your money works more for you? Even if you're just going to throw that money back into your business and reinvest by hiring more employees, or, buying more sewing machines, buy more materials. You can't do any of that unless you have the money. So it's all about not spending, and there's nothing geared to get people not to spend, because the whole concept of our economy is about consuming. They want you to buy Coca-Cola. They want you to buy Frito-Lays. They want you to watch Netflix. And it's all about not spending. How can you not spend? So that's my challenge to everybody. John, Nicole, how do you guys not going to spend?
And take that money out of cash and put it into something, because the cash is just going to devalue, right?
Yeah, Yeah. And when I say I love money, I don't love money. Yeah. I love appreciating assets.
He loves wealth.
Yeah, buy materials. At the beginning of COVID, I bought a shipping container full of dimensional lumber, right? And then it quadrupled, if not, tenfolded in price, right? I was never upset that I bought those 2x4s and 2x6s. Same thing with materials. But then, and at the same time, your government will come in and be like, okay, you have all these materials, and they want to tax you on them.
They do.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's insane. And even that is encroaching more, right? There's some new federal law that gives local municipalities more power to come in and audit local businesses. And we're even seeing some of that happen on a local basis. It's starting to encroach where there hasn't been any of that shit for 17 years. All of a sudden, the knocks are on the door.
Yeah. What happens if you don't answer your door when they knock?
They come back.
They break it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They break it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it's all about not spending.
I think the single most offended I ever was paying a tax was the first time I had to pay that materials tax in Tennessee for pens and paper. Like at the time, my business was a desk, a computer, paper, pens, and a printer. And I'm like, okay, so there's a picture of my family on my desk, Do you tax that if it's in your office? Yes. Well, that's
Property
just ridiculous.
tax,
Yeah, it's that real property tax that they do on businesses. Yeah. Yep. One of the reasons I like to order coffee beans on the 31st of the month in December is because they don't arrive until after I have to count how many coffee beans are on hand for that tax. But yeah, it's that one really pissed me off. I'm still mad about it. You can probably hear it in my voice. But I need to get over it because it just is what it is. But that's the one. The free market think tank in Tennessee got rid of what was called the Hall tax here, which is a wealth tax. So it was keeping retirees out of the state. The next one they need to hit is that one. That one or groceries. I'm all for peeling these back as much as we can.
Everybody on here needs to go to their local town hall meetings. You need to go to all of your political meetings. You need to know what's going on. And that's the only thing you can really change is get involved on a local level of politics.
Yep. You going to run for office, John?
No, I'm going to watch you do that.
No, I believe you should just vote for the slave master that's going to whip you the least. And then whoever gets elected, just bribe them. That's a joke. It's a joke, right?
Totally not serious. That's okay. We already the Facebook
easier to bribe politicians.
Stopped, so
easier to bribe politicians than it is to get anything changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing will change without violence, and you'll never see violence as long as there's electricity, water, and entertainment. That's why when people push back, they make such a big deal about it. Do you think that, like Koresh, for instance, right, the Branch Davidians or Randy Weaver or any of those big Bundy Ranch, right? Why do you think all those aircraft were allowed to be there to film it, right? Because they need you guys to see it so that you don't get any ideas about it.
Yeah, what's the old proverb? You kill the chicken to scare the monkeys.
Yep.
Anybody who's wondering why you're not seeing all the comments I flash up on screen, it's because we are simultaneously streaming to 4 YouTube channels, a Twitter channel, a Float channel. We were streaming to Facebook, but Facebook turned us off about 15 minutes ago. So I don't know what y'all said, but Facebook turned off the video. I'm going to blame it on censorship, even though it was probably just a technical glitch. Facebook has not been nice to me the last 2 weeks. Can't post anything. Anyway, okay. So John Pugliano, how do you become a millionaire?
Yeah, I'm a 25-year overnight success.
Yeah.
It is easy as we talked about at the beginning. It's a matter of you learn how to earn an income. Again, I started at 17 in the Marine Corps. That was where I started. You have to learn to earn an income, and then you need to take that money and save a portion of it. So the richest man in Babylon, the book talks about paying yourself first. You got to pay yourself first, and you're not going to get it right. You got to pay the taxes. You got to do all that other stuff, but you got to find a way to not spend 10 to 20% of that money and take it aside and invest it. And again, I'm agnostic when it comes to investing. I personally deal with the stock market because that's what I know how to do and that's what I do. But whether you invest in real estate or cryptocurrency or your own business or whatever it is, you have to take that risk where other people don't, right? When the stock market's down and everybody's worried about banks going out of business and the debt ceiling and all the never-ending negative headlines, that's when you want to buy, right? And just like inventory, if you have a business, you want to buy one and the inventory is on sale, buy it then. Figure out how to add value to it and sell it at a higher price. And literally myself, the clients that I have, people that I've met over the years, I know people in every walk of life that are millionaires, right? People that have retired from the military, millionaires. People that work for government agencies, military, State Department, whatever, local municipal government. There are people there that are millionaires. 95% of them never save or earn or invest the money, but there are 5% of every little element. Obviously, small business owners. There's a lot of millionaires there, but it doesn't have to be probably. I haven't looked at the numbers lately, but roughly there was a time when about a third of my millionaire clients were doctors, medical professionals, and another third were IT guys. And I really never thought the doctors made sense to me. The IT guys never really made a whole lot of sense because these are guys that work for companies, and maybe they work for Apple, but also maybe they just work for like a little, local regional company where they provide IT services, or maybe they have their own small business in IT. But I have a large concentration of clients that are in that business because they can make a good income there. They've learned how to save it, and then it's as simple as not trying to get rich quick, but just investing it in good quality things that make sense over time. Buying the right real estate, investing in the right companies in the stock market. Again, I know people of all walks of life, all sexes, all religions, all races, but only 5% of them ever achieve financial independence. 5% of any category, because most people just want to spend, and they are unwilling to take the slow, monotonous path to building wealth.
At what point of extra cash on hand do you start to invest?
I don't think someone's really an investor until they have probably about a year's worth of income saved up. And that doesn't mean they shouldn't invest till then, but I've thought about this a lot over the years because of all the questions I get on my podcast. And, you'll see the things, just invest $5 a week or $5 a month, or, what do you do with $1,000? I always say, if all you have to do invest is $1,000, you're a saver, not an investor. But if you want to put that in the S&P 500 or some kind of index fund or broadly diversify it, that's fine. But really, you need to be having 6 months to a year's worth of either your pay or your living expenses to really what I would consider be an investor, because smaller amounts than that don't matter, right? If you have $1,000 and you get a 10% return, you made $100. Big deal. $100 isn't going to change your life. If you have $100,000 saved up, you get a 10% return on that. Well, now you're talking about some real money. That's money that, you think about it, if you have $100,000 saved up and you get a 10% rate of return on it, that's $10,000. Well, you can only put $6,500 in a Roth IRA. So if you put your $6,500 in your Roth IRA and your money invested just made another $10,000, that's how you build the wealth. That's the compounding part. You're continually adding to it with your own money, but that money itself is making more money. And if you get in critical amounts of money, it just, you're sort of, it's not that you're wasting your time, but if you're spending a lot of time trying to trade it, you're never really going to get anywhere, because chances of making big money on $2,000 pretty slim to none. Ask me how I know, right? I can tell you that.
It's an ask me how I know moment.
Yeah, I've been investing since 1985, right? 1985 is a long time. And one day you have that money and it starts really doing things for you. And if you keep doing those same things over and over again, you build wealth. And again, same way with your business. No matter what you're doing, those small incremental little steps, making wise decisions, ignoring the headlines, ignoring the fear and greed, the normal emotions that we have, learning to identify value. I have one of the first 10 episodes of my podcast, I called them the 10 wealth building principles. I don't know, I think it's episode 5 or 6, somewhere in there. It talks about identifying value. And it's your whole life. You want to identify value in people. So you hang around other valuable people. You want to identify your spouse as a valuable person. Right? You want to be able to spot that value. And when you're buying real estate, when you're buying a stock, when you're investing in anything, you want to make sure that you can identify that value, because that's how you build your wealth. Over time, value appreciates.
Makes sense. All right. Well, we're coming in on an hour and a half. Let's go once around the horn. Start with you, John Pugliano.
Hey, as far as, like I said, the stuff, ignore the headlines, focus on building yourself, saving your own money, ignoring, just being the gray man that exists in a little environment that you can create your own environment or your own reality. And I encourage you to do that. You can find out about me at either investablewealth.com is my investment firm. The Wealthsteading Podcast is my podcast on YouTube. And again, there's a corresponding YouTube channel to that where I just put out specific visual type content. But I'm not so much on the creating side in terms of content as I am in just the day-to-day investing, and that's what I do. That's what I love. And I'd encourage everybody to find out what they do, what they love. Find something you love to do and get up and do it every day, because that's what I do. It's what I've been doing for a lot of years, and I never, ever plan to retire. As long as God willing, I have the health, I want to get up and work every day because I love what I do. And again, the wealthy people I know, they're people that are happy doing the things that they do to make them money. So find what that is that you love doing and you can make money and do it all day long. Make lots of money.
All right. John Willis.
If you want to put away and save, invest $1 million, you first have to make $1 million. And you're not never going to make $1 million if you don't know how much that is, right? You need to make $3,300 a day, every day of the year, roughly, to be $1 million. If you don't have that in your head, you're probably not ever going to even move in that direction. I do a live video every night at 9 o'clock on my YouTube channel here on YouTube. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'm literally on every platform, mostly those other little different content on each one. We build nylon tactical gear, lifestyle gear, bags, and nylon stuff. We do a different shirt every Monday. This is the shirt that came out this Monday. They're at soetacticalgear.com. And you can send emails to us, and I generally will answer those. And we're easy to get a hold of. Every night, 9 o'clock, jump in, join in, see what we built each day, and we have a conversation about whatever you guys want to talk about.
Awesome. I am sharing my screen, guys. If you want to see John Pugliano in person, you can come out to John Willis's compound in Camden, Tennessee, October 14th and 15th for the Self-Reliance Festival. Early bird tickets are on sale right now. And look, there he is right there in the lineup, the Wealthsteading Podcast. Right now we have you talking about how to become a millionaire the slow, hard way, but usually he gives me a different title a few weeks before the event based on what folks have been saying in the live stream. It's not only a chance to see John Pugliano present, but to talk to him in person. Because when we were talking earlier, he said, I don't give a bunch of money management advice to people. I don't give savings advice or anything. But here's what does happen. If you ask him a question in person, you may end up getting advice from his life experience that can make the difference between continuing to go down the wrong path and not build your own prosperity, not take ownership for your future, and figuring out what you need to do mentally to switch on and start saving money and stopping the bad spends and putting your effort into your future success, into a small business, into having more money. And as we started out saying, we love money. That's over at selfreliancefestival.com. Guys, I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for joining us today.